Walk with me. So we're just coming off the 4th of July here in the USA, celebrating our nation's independence. One of my favorite holidays, just the energy of it, the vibe. It's just fun. And when you think of the 4th of July, one of the words that has to come to mind always for everyone is freedom. What does that mean to you? Freedom. Just go ahead and say that, whatever you're doing right now. Freedom. What's the feeling? How would you describe it? What's the meaning you personally give that word? And I want to talk about freedom, not in the political context or even the national context, but in the context of being an entrepreneur. And the top 3 freedoms that attracted me, that shifted me on this crazy journey 24 years ago and keeps me on this path. What they are, what they mean, and how to pursue them every day. Before we get into those 3 freedoms, I'm going to ask, who's by my side? Who's to my left? Who's to my right? Where are you from? Comment. Let me know below. What are you doing right now? I love that I've seen a bunch of comments from people that have actually started physically walking together across the world, whether they be outside, around the street, on the treadmill, movement. I love it. If you do that, share to your social, tag me. I'd love to see and share the stories. And if you're new to the crew, welcome. We walk together, sharing inspired thoughts, kind of stream of consciousness, usually weekly around the same time, live. And we've been doing so for a while. The archives on the podcast, up over 160. Crazy. So drop by the podcast, subscribe if you haven't. And the only thing I ask is, don't be a fly on the wall. You're here, you're with us. Participate, share, give perspective. That adds value to me and to all of us. And I do read all the comments, all the reviews, and I'm grateful for it. Freedom. Such a good word, isn't it? Yeah, there's energy to that word. Matter of fact, I'd have to say freedom would be the number one value that inspired me to shift at 19 years old and become an entrepreneur. Quite the opposite upbringing. For those of you guys that know my history, my mom, a career educator, teacher, counselor, then principal. My dad, career law enforcement. Yeah, principal and a cop. Followed the traditional script. School, college, all the things, building the resume. Thought I was law school bound because, well, isn't that what you're supposed to do if you want to be quote unquote successful? And at 19, made the shift to become an entrepreneur. And if I were to reflect and think, okay, well, what was it that inspired me to do so? It was the pursuit of freedom. I think at the end of the day, that's got to be high on most of our values lists, most of our priority lists. But what that means might vary, and that's what I want to explore. And I'd say fast forward 24 years later, still an entrepreneur, haven't looked back. I'd say it's still that word, that energy, that opportunity, freedom that keeps me on my path. And when I say entrepreneur, I think many of you are entrepreneurs. I think an entrepreneur is anybody that pursues an idea, is anybody that is in business for themselves, whether that be as a, consultant or independent contractor or solopreneur. Maybe it's just you and what you create and what you bring to the world, or, anybody in the sales profession, obviously community-based marketing, direct sales, micro entrepreneurs, people that have small teams and are building small teams. What I love about the season that we're in right now is we're definitely in the rise of entrepreneurship, the gig economy, and all the technology in kind of the Uber firing of the world, and the rise of all of the side gigs and side hustles. One positive outcome I love about it is it's really promoted entrepreneurship and given people means to take a step and realize that they can be, right, and live an entrepreneurial lifestyle, one by their own design. And I love that. I think it's going to continue going that direction, even beyond the gig economy, just where the world's going, where remote working is going, where technology is advancing with the AI conversation growing as fast as it is. I see opportunity. I see opportunity for people to make the leap, right, and either grow as entrepreneurs or become entrepreneurs. And if you're maybe listening to this right now and you don't consider yourself such, maybe your time is coming, and these conversations will help prepare the mindset, right? The mind shifts to accelerate when you make that leap. But to me, that's what this conversation really is for. And if I were to ask all of you who are already in that lane, who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, micro entrepreneurs, right? What freedom means to you? What are the things that come to mind? For me, I got started on this journey really because of the vision or the promise of 3 freedoms. And I want to talk about those 3 freedoms, that I think an entrepreneurial journey can unlock, right? And they don't come by default, right? They still have to be by design, by an intention, but the path and the journey allows you to pursue, right, these 3 freedoms. And the first freedom that comes to mind, and this is probably the obvious one that you would guess, is the pursuit of a time freedom. And one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur is you control your calendar. And for me, time is something that's super important. It's more than just like the calendar on your phone, or, on your calendar on your computer, or the calendar on your wall in your office, right? To me, it's about time, right? Calendar equals time. And time at the end of the day equals life. And that's my association. My association is at the end of the day, our life really is all about how we choose to invest our time. And time is all we really have, right? And time is fleeting. Time goes fast. Time speeds up. And time is the one thing, no matter how hard you work or how much money you collect or how successful you are, or what the scoreboard says, time is the one thing nobody can get back once it's gone. Once a minute is spent, it's gone. And there's nothing that anybody can do about that. It's the most valuable thing we have. So when I think about life equaling time and time equaling, right, our calendar, then for me, time freedom is such an important thing in our life. The ability to choose where we put our time and when we put our time. And, I remember being 19 years old and just the thought of spending my entire life and having other people, someone outside my control, tell me where I put my time. Start here, take a lunch here, end here. You can only go on, all right, a vacation here. You can only have so many days to get sick here. Structures and parameters around life. It's like trying to put a box around a lifeline. And for me, that's just something that I always looked at as not a path I wanted to get stuck in. And definitely not a path I wanted to spend a large percentage of my life in. And so time freedom, the ability to choose, when you put time into certain activities is a huge thing. Now, don't misunderstand me. I know a lot of people, especially on social media today, they flaunt these entrepreneurial lifestyles and it's like they don't work, the 4-hour work week philosophy. And I've never found that to be the truth. I've always worked hard and put in time. And my philosophy is quite the opposite. My philosophy is do things that you love to do things that you enjoy to do things that you want to put time in to do. So to me, it's never been the intention of like less time. It's more been the freedom and the flexibility of when to put the time into certain things. And that's always been a value to me. And I think even going into parenthood and having two littles growing up, even more so than ever, the ability to be able to not miss important moments in their life, right? To be able to take an hour here or an hour there or 2 hours there or a day there and make sure that those meaningful moments, right, are shared together, I think is more important than ever. I think when we talk about time freedom, it's the time of where we invest what we do. It's also the time of who we invest in too, right? So I think part of time freedom also is we get to choose who we want to be around and who we don't when you're an entrepreneur. You know, you can't change other people, but you can choose how much time you want to spend with other people. And I think that's a huge part of freedom in an entrepreneurial journey, is the ability to design what you do and when you do it and who you do it with. I think the second freedom that comes to mind after time freedom, I would say, is creative freedom. Now, this has always been something important to me. I've always had an affinity and attraction to the word create, creation, creator. But I don't think that's just me. I think we as humans were designed to create. We were designed to be creators. Matter of fact, I think we were all given certain unique gifts and talents, different unique gifts and talents from person to person. But if you look at what you enjoy doing, what you excel at, I'm willing to bet it allows you to create something in some way that is of service or a gift to others. I think at the core, we're all designed to create. And I think creative freedom, the ability to kind of choose what you do with the time you have, is super important. I was having a conversation actually this past week with a very successful entrepreneur, very successful, runs a large company, someone who lives a lifestyle that most people would aspire to, and just someone I respect in terms of just her energy, what she brings to the world, her tenacity. And she was having a conversation, reaching out for some guidance, and she was telling me, Blake, it's like when I do this, and this, I feel energized. I'm working, I put in time, but it fuels me up. And when I do this, and this, it just drains me, it burns me out. And I stopped her and I said, well, that's because that's what you were designed to do. That's not by chance, that's not by happenstance, that's not random. We all have those indicators in us. When we are in a lane that we are meant to be in, we were created to be in, even when you put in the time, you put in the effort, like it is work. It energizes you, it lifts you up. It's called a flow state. And you guys, that is the number one sign of the lane that you're meant to be in, is when you put more and more time in, it actually gives you more energy. It's like a generator. It amplifies and multiplies. It's when we do things that we're not meant to do, right, that drain us, that burn us out, the rat race, right, all the negative energy meanings. It's not about the work. It's about what you're doing within the work. So I think creative freedom is equally as important as time freedom. It's not only choosing, when and who, but it's choosing what you're meant to do. In my experience, I've always, put in long hours. I'm not here to paint a picture of, hey, you put in a little bit amount of time and live this outrageous lifestyle. To me, it's the opposite. To me, it's put yourself in a lane where you were meant to be. Put yourself in a lane that fuels you up. Put yourself in a lane where you're in a creative state. Put yourself in a lane where you're able to put an output that makes an impact. And when you're in that lane, right, it fuels you. It inspires you. It's a passion state. But you got to be an entrepreneur, right, to be able to choose those things. And there's an element of maturity on learning how to eventually do less of the things that drain you and more of the things that fuel you. It's not an instant thing. It's not an everything thing. I can't say I know anybody that's managed to get entirely out of the things that drain them, right? But it's about being more on the side that fuels you than the other. And that comes with being an entrepreneur. That's a freedom that we have. And again, in today's day and age, in a realm of opportunity, in a realm of technology, in a season of shift, in a season of acceleration, in a time of disruption, all these things, they're breaking old structures and allowing for more opportunity and allowing for you to step up and create in a way that makes an impact, more so than ever. And then the last one, is the one probably where most people start at when they make the leap into entrepreneurship, and you got to put it on the list of top, and that's financial freedom. And because financial freedom, yeah, it might be about a certain dollar, right, of safety and stability. It might be about a certain dollar of lifestyle and flexibility that you want to get to. But to me, financial freedom has never been about a set amount. It's always been about the opportunity to grow and excel and elevate based on the value you create. To me, that's the freedom. The freedom is to put yourself in a structure, right, where the more value you bring, the more value you get in return. And at least for me, I could never imagine being in a set framework where the time you put in, the energy you put in, the creation you put in doesn't change the output in terms of financial reward. It would be uninspiring and unmotivating, at least for me and my personality. And I've worked with thousands, hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs, and I think that's the truth for everybody, even those that say it's not, right? You don't have to be money motivated to realize that compensation drives behavior in everyone. And you got to have a framework, an opportunity where the more you invest, the more value you bring, the more service you bring, the more you put in, right? The more creative you are, the more that you build, the more that you elevate, the more return comes your way. That incentive allows you to continue to build and grow and serve at higher levels. And I think, and not to, limit or not to be, overly negative on structures that aren't that, but I don't think those structures get the best out of people. I don't think those structures get the best out of you. And I know for a lot of people, you have to have a living and a livelihood, maybe in a traditional employee structure. And maybe for now, that's what you need for you and your lifestyle or your family or some of your basic necessities. But it doesn't mean you can't have something else that you're doing that is in an entrepreneurial vein that allows you to start to explore some of these freedoms. Even if it's something you start spare time, part-time, maybe even it's something you start from a passion, right? And a creative outlet. But what you find if you line all these different things and you're doing something that you love and make an impact and something you want to put time and energy into and something that aligns with your skills eventually ends up generating results. And maybe that spare time, part-time passion thing can end up becoming a more time thing until it's a full-time thing. So guys, these are all freedoms that come to my mind. There's probably other freedoms that are on the list as being an entrepreneur. For those of you guys that are entrepreneurs out there, what other freedoms are you grateful for? What other freedoms or blessings that we have, right, in the world that we have today? And as with all freedoms, it's a promise, it's an opportunity, but it's one that has to be constantly pursued, right? It's not something that's instantly given. It's not something that's forced on your plate. It's something that you have to walk through. The door is there, but you got to turn the knob. You got to walk through it in order to make those freedoms a reality. It's the opportunity of freedom that we're given, right? Not the outcome of it. And for the 4th of July, as we celebrate independence, as we celebrate the freedoms that we have, let us all be reminded that we have those doors open to us every single day. But just because the door is there doesn't mean we're walking through or on the other side. And for all the entrepreneurs out there, maybe this be a refresh, a reminder, a reinvigoration to say, yeah, you know what? I do have the ability to choose where my time goes and who I surround myself with in the time and who I spend more and less time with. I do have the ability to invest my lifeline into the things that fuel me, the things that energize me, the things that I was designed to do, right, more so than the other. And in doing all of that in service and value, I have the ability to grow an income, to grow a financial freedom, to grow a lifestyle, right, for you and your family, and then the ability to extend those resources beyond maybe just you and your family to make an impact in a bigger and more meaningful way. And that's the freedom we all have every day. Let's take advantage of it. And for those that haven't made the leap, hey, like I said before, now's the time. That thing that's calling you, that thing that's inside of you, right? That idea that's brewing, the world needs it. And you can't start yesterday, but you can start tomorrow. You can't change the past, but you can change the future. And all it does is it takes a moment of decision, a shift. You can do that anytime. Beautiful day, sun is out. Hope all of you have a safe week. Hope all of you find freedoms in your life. Hope all of you are grateful and feel blessed for what you have and recognize the opportunity ahead of us. and go pursue those freedoms, right, in your life every day. Until the next time we walk together, take care, everybody.